Hi everyone, my name is Caleb King, and this week for our discussion post, we're to introduce our final project for HIUS 530. My final project is going to be a multimedia video that is going to cover the influence of Christianity and religion in early Georgia. And when I'm talking about Georgia, I'm not talking about the country of Georgia. I'm talking about what used to be the colony of Georgia that is now the state of Georgia within the United States of America. Religion has had an impact in Georgia from before the British set up the 13th and final colony here. The Spanish actually arrived in the area that is now Georgia first, and they had the first contact with the Native Americans that lived here. And the Spanish would ultimately set up some missions, some Spanish missions, which were churches that were tasked with trying to spread Christianity. And they set those up along the barrier islands off the coast of Georgia. Now, the British would ultimately be the country, Great Britain would ultimately be the country that would establish a colony, a formal colony in Georgia. And that was done through the Charter of 1732. And this created the colony in a different way than the previous 12 colonies. The previous 12 colonies were royal colonies where there was a royal governor that was handpicked by the king to kind of carry out the king's wishes within that colony. The colony of Georgia was created by the Charter of 1732, which established a board of trustees. There was 21 trustees that were put in charge of the colony. James Oglethorpe was kind of the mastermind behind creating the colony. He came up with the idea. And he would be the only one of the 21 trustees to actually step foot in the colony of Georgia. And we're going to see that the influence of Christianity impacted that Charter of 1732 as well. There were certain groups that were not allowed to settle in Georgia. One of those was the Jews, and we would see that the Jews would pretty quickly be able to settle in the colony of Georgia. About 5 months after Oglethorpe arrived, the first group of Jewish settlers would arrive, and the reason they were allowed to settle is because the colony's only doctor had died. There was an outbreak in the colony, an illness outbreak that was killing the colonists faster than they could save them. And in this first group of Jews that would arrive was a doctor by the name of Samuel Nunez, and he would kind of get credit for saving the colony, so Jews would be allowed. And this kind of opened up a period of religious tolerance within the colony of Georgia. We'll see that the Salzburgers would be able to settle in Georgia. The Salzburgers were Lutheran, and they would establish the first Lutheran congregation in Georgia, which is now the longest continually practicing Lutheran congregation in the entire United States. And we would see that this kind of influenced the way and shaped the way that Georgia would transpire as a colony and then eventually once it turned into a state. Now, my goal of this project is to do a multimedia video where I'm going to have different pictures that are going to show these different groups while I'm talking about them. It's going to be around 10 minutes in length, going a little bit more in depth than what I've done in this video. I am a Georgia Studies teacher here in Georgia. I teach this content to a group of 8th grade students. However, the religious aspect of it is not something that we focus on really past the point of saying the British were Protestant during the time period. The Spanish were Catholic. They were huge rivals. And so they created the colony of Georgia to protect the other colonies against the Spanish in Florida who were Catholics. So Catholics would be that other group that was not allowed in the Charter of 1732 because they thought they would sympathize with the Spanish in Florida. I hope that you enjoy my final project once I get that turned in. It is an aspect of this class that I am glad that I'm being able to explore because it is going to help me with my students and help me teaching them a little bit different in class. Thank you.